Well, hello. Glad to be back doing videos for this Ask an Injin. I apologize for the long wait as I ran into some health problems and money problems as I'm doing this on my own nickel. And I have to wait till the opportunity arises to do more videos. But here we find ourselves in southeastern Virginia at pretty much Hampton Roads, Virginia, in the Chesapeake Bay, entrance to the James River, at the very impressive Fort Monroe at the Casement Museum. And we're looking down the barrel of a 59-pound cannon at the Casement Museum. This, I've passed this several times, and it's a 3-inch rifled barrel ordnance cannon. I know this doesn't look like much to do with the Native American theme. Fort Monroe, though, was taken over, and local Indians used this for fishing, and they lived here in small villages. It's a fortress built on just impregnable, pretty much. And I'll show you a picture, an overhead picture. But I have gone by this Casement Museum for years, and finally today, I said today's the day to visit. It's free, and the museum itself, you just will not believe it. If you get in this area, it's a must-see. Here's a quick overview of Fort Monroe about 1819, and that's about the 4th building of the fort. Most of them, one burnt down, and the other 2 that were constructed here were taken away by hurricanes right on the Atlantic Gulf, or Atlantic shore, I'm sorry. Now, here's the reason that I so enjoyed this museum. This is a native North Carolina Virginian Indian of the Powhatan Confederacy, and that would be the nation in the Algonquin tribe, and this is dressed as if they found them in 1565, and this watercolor was done. So this is an elder and possibly a chief, because of the plaque that he wears around his neck would identify his rank in the Indian world, or Native American if you want to talk about it. Now this would be a warrior in the Algonquin tribe, Powhatan Confederacy, and he is adorned with body paint. So you're looking at a figure which probably dated back, the watercolor was done in 1586, but this tattoo body art would go back thousands of years. So you can see the bow and arrow. You can also see in the back what looks like a tail. That's part of another weapon that he is holding, and it wears around his neck. He has 1 feather on the top and 1 feather in the back, which would denounce his rank in the military. These are the Algonquins. They found them here in small villages, and the land is very poor for farming, but strategically, this is probably the most critical land, as it is the mouth of the James River off the Atlantic coast, and it's a perfect portage for large ships, which the Indians didn't have, but that's why they were either driven or taken off the land. This was the first fort built here at Fort Monroe on the island, and it by mistake burnt down. So they found remnants of the foundation and sketches is how they reconstructed it. The Casement Museum starts here, and you go through, and pretty much you could spend a week in here reading everything, but we're not going to have that luxury. But I'll show you that it continues on for probably 1/3 of a mile of walking through the Casement Museum, showing you old weaponry, large cannons. Now, if you are a history buff, this is a must-see. I'm just going to give you a real brief look and tell you of a couple of the Indians or Native Americans that were from here or held captive. Now this is a sketch of Black Hawk, Chief Black Hawk, imprisoned here in 1832, brought an end to the Black Hawk Wars. His capture in August put him in contact with a young lieutenant named Jefferson Davis, who escorted Black Hawk to Jefferson Barracks in St. Louis, Missouri. This is a portrait at the time of Lieutenant Jefferson Davis, done in 1828. And he is the one that brought Black Hawk to capture. But his name was B.A. Large Black Hawk. I cannot pronounce the name, even if I was going to try it, and excuse me, it's Mahataketa Wimeshika Hagi Hagwa. That's best I can do. You'll have to figure it out yourself. But he was heralded as the most strategic and tactical mind, brilliant mind of the world at the time after his capture. And he is of the Sook tribe. Black Hawk was a strong warrior in his timeless effort against the continuing expansion of American settlement west of the Mississippi. At the age of 65, his defeat and capture at the Battle of Bad Axe River during Black Hawk Wars was his last stance against westward expansion, resulting in the U.S. settlement Illinois, Iowa, and Wisconsin. This portrait was done by Charles Bird King at Fort Monroe in 1833. And this is the most brilliant strategic mind on the planet at the time. Now this is an overview of Fort Monroe and the island, Fort Comfort, right about the Civil War time. So we are in the Casement Museum, which is going to be this lower left-hand corner all the way to that bridge right there. It's got to run a third of a mile of walking through here, of cannon batteries and defenses. Jefferson Davis, after the Civil War, was housed here in this until his health went bad and he was moved to another prison. But it just keeps on going. So if you do get a chance, this would be officers' quarters in Fort Monroe. You can see quite the difference in the accoutrements. And I won't take you all the way through the museum because it is a long walk. And there's a painting done of the officers' quarters of the time. Like I said, this baby just keeps going on for probably a third of a mile. So in retrospect, we're inside the fort, which is built out of stone with dirt piled up and all archways through it. So it's been here several hundred years and should stay even with the hurricanes. But if you get down to Virginia, near the edge of the Chesapeake Bay, Hampton Roads area, it is a must-see. I guarantee you'll be overwhelmed. Bring your walking shoes, you're gonna need them. And there's houses and forts, and George Washington was here. Jefferson Davis was housed here after the Civil War. And it's just, you could spend days down here with the historical value of this location. More film at 11. And we're still inside the fort, but just to give you an idea of some of the structures in here, it is just incredible. Sorry it's a little blurry through the windshield for whatever reason. And like I promised you, very big in history, this is in this house President Abraham Lincoln stayed during his visit in 1862, and was that the President, General Wool, and Commander Goldsberg planned the attack of Norfolk, Virginia. Absolutely gorgeous brick and wood buildings. And this is one of the only way in and out of this fort are these tunnels built through these stone walls. Only 9 foot wide and 10 foot tall. And those indentations, this is the moat. You see part of the fort right there. And the moat, and to the ahead of us above there is the Chesapeake Bay. And to our right, as we would round the corner, is going to be the James River. So that's portage from the Atlantic Ocean into the James River. So we're looking at Fort Monroe, and that would be these batteries that are up here on the outside of the moat. But as we turn around, there's the Atlantic Ocean. All right. Up here to the left is the Chesapeake Bay. All right. And this is Virginia Beach is right down there. That is going to be Norfolk over here in the naval bases. Here's another half of the fort on the other side of the down there are the flat tops or aircraft carriers of the U.S. Navy. And this is a cannon battery up on top, and again here's Fort Monroe, and you can see the cannon batteries on top from World War II. Fort Monroe, a must-see. So, like I was telling you, the only way in and out of this fort is that little opening right there. And a truck doesn't even fit down through there. A car barely does. At 9 foot wide, 10 foot tall. Fort Monroe. We're on the outside of the fort now, coming around to some of the World War II outer defenses of cannon batteries, and these were never really used. The fort was never attacked, at least by the Germans or Nazis or anything else, but these were all armed with men. It had, I think they said 600 in peacetime and 6,500 and armed for battle. Now, like I was telling you, this is the Hampton Roads Tunnel. So over there where you see that flag flying, you can see it, it's there somewhere. Yeah, that's the start of the tunnel on the Interstate 64, drives underwater all the way across and comes up on this side just where you can't see it. But you can see the 2 ocean liners that just went through this tunnel over Interstate 64. These are monster cargo carriers, and to the left is that Navy yard with the flat tops. All of the aircraft carriers parked. Over here it's Phoebeus helicopter base and practice area. See, I think you can barely see a helicopter. Now you can hear it coming. But they practice the amphibious and the helicopters right here. So if you're a history nut and modern day American history person, come to Virginia to Hampton Roads. And like I said, Hampton Roads, Virginia. More film at 11.